Hey up, right, I keep getting, actually before we start, I've got plant machinery running just across the road here. I've got plant machinery running just behind me. I don't know what people have been doing, but everybody's decided to have some major works done to the house for the last week or two. I don't know when it's going to end. There may be some interruptions to the audio on this. All I can do is apologise for that. I've got no control over it. I've just got to get on as best I can. Now, back to the subject of this video. Over the last few months, I've been getting comments from people telling me that the chains on the J Series Royal Enfields are made out of monkey metal. They're having problems with rust. They're having problems with them stretching excessively. I haven't had any problems with this. This bike's done near 3,000 miles. About 800 miles of that has been with a pillion on board. I'm going to take a measurement in a few minutes, but I don't think it's stretched excessively. I don't know what people are doing, but I'm going to speculate. I get a lot of people making comments in the comment section that you don't need to lubricate O-ring sealed chains because the lubrication is sealed in, so they don't need lubricating. Well, that lubrication is only sealed in between the pins and the rollers. The external surfaces of the rollers need to be lubricated because they're grinding against your sprockets front and rear on the bike all the time that you're riding it. So if you don't lubricate them, it is going to build up excessive heat. They are going to wear prematurely. Whether that's what people are doing, I really don't know because I'm not there. I can't see what's going on. It may be just down to poor maintenance. Obviously, gear changes as well are going to make a difference to how long your chain will last. If you're heavy-handed and you're slamming it into gear, it is going to reduce the lifespan of your chain. There's no doubt about it. So, you know, smooth, slick gear changes are the order of the day in order to get the best out of your chain. Now, as I've said, there's no problem with my chain really, but this is cropping up so often now that I thought it's time I just did a video about changing the chain on the J Series bike. So that's the Classic 350, the Hunter 350, the Meteor 350, and the new Bullet 350. Let's get on with it. Right, I'm just going to pause this video for a moment because I had some issues with my memory cards producing this video and I lost some files. Now, the D.I.D chain that I'm fitting in this video was supplied by Hitchcock's Motorcycles. They supply kits specific to different models of the Royal Enfield range, also BSA. And I will leave a link in the video description down below for you to pop across there and have a look at this chain if you're interested. Now, the other thing is, when I actually removed the original chain from this bike, I did uncover a potential issue that suggests that either the OEM chain has been sort of riveted together unevenly, or there's been a lack of lubricant in some of the rollers. Now, I discovered this just by removing one link, so what the rest of the chain is like, I don't know. It might have been a one-off. And these inconsistencies might explain why people have been having issues with their chains, although I will reiterate, I didn't consider the wear on my particular chain to be in any way excessive. Right, let's get on. Right, D.I.D chains have been my choice for the last 30 or 40 years. I don't know necessarily whether they're considered to be the best chains on the market these days. They're certainly one of the best. And, you know, I tend to stick with what I know works. This is the D.I.D VX3 chain. Now, I think this is going to raise some eyebrows. This particular chain is rated for 125 to 800 cc motorcycles. So that's a sort of 10-12 horsepower bike, right up to, well, getting into 100 horsepower territory, really. This isn't the top of the range D.I.D chain, it's sort of one down from the top. but it's certainly good enough for the classic 350, which I think at the back wheel is about 17 horsepower, something like that. At the crank it's about 20 brake horsepower, so in a way I suppose this is overkill for this bike, but a chain of this quality I would expect to see about 30,000 miles before I even need to think of replacing this chain. So you get what you pay for. I mean, you can buy a cheap 30 or 40 pound chain, you'll probably be replacing it at 10,000 miles. If I can get 30,000 miles out of this at 70 something pounds, maybe just under 80 pounds, this is going to outlast a cheap chain by a factor of about 3, and it'll probably go beyond that. I've never had any problem with D.I.D chains. The original Interceptor 5 years ago came with a low-grade D.I.D chain, which has lasted really well. I've not had major problems with rust or anything on that. On the 350, I've no idea what they've actually fitted. There's no markings on it anywhere to indicate who the manufacturer is. If it was D.I.D, obviously they decided not to stamp their name on it, but I suspect it's not a D.I.D. I suspect it's an Indian-made chain. I'm not saying it's bad quality, because like I've said, I've not had any issues with my chain. It's like everything really, you don't really know when people are complaining about these things, you don't really know what they're doing that's causing a problem, and you're not necessarily going to get the truth out of them when you do engage with them online. So you know, I don't know why people are having problems with these chains. I really don't understand it, but inevitably everybody's going to have to replace the chain at some stage. Some people will choose to get a dealership to do that, and that's fine. Personally, I would rather spend a bit more money on a top of the range chain and fit it myself than buy a mediocre chain and spend, I don't know, £60 or whatever the charge for a mechanic to fit it. It's just the way I am. Now, as you can see with this chain, the outer links are titanium coated. That's what gives it that sort of lovely gold colour. This is the, well, it might look familiar because this is the same coating that they put on high-speed drill bits, because it's pretty much impervious to corrosion, and it's also highly wear resistant, and it looks nice. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a fantastic upgrade for any motorcycle. With this kit, you've got a choice of fittings. Now, in the past, on the Bonnevilles, I've used rivet link chains where you have to actually rivet the chain onto the motorcycle. This comes with a rivet and a split link or clip link, whatever you want to call it, as well, and that's the one I'm going to be using in this video. And the reason for that is rivet links can be a little bit difficult to do at home. In fact, sometimes, you know, I've heard stories of them being fitted by dealerships and there being an issue later on. The actual technology itself is great technology, but in order to rivet these links up, you need a specialist tool. You need a chain riveter. 90 to 95% of the rivet tools available on the market today are complete rubbish, especially when you're dealing with a high quality chain that uses very hard metal to actually affect that connection. A good riveting tool from D.I.D or one of the other leading manufacturers, last time I looked, was about, I think it ranged between 100 to 130 pounds for something that you're not going to use very often. That's a big investment. In fact, it's more than the chain cost. Okay, you're going to reuse it in the future, but how many times are you actually going to be changing a chain? Probably, I think in my lifetime I've probably only changed probably 6 or 7 chains over the years. Now, if you buy the cheaper ones, what tends to happen with those is the actual riveting bit that comes with the kit rarely survives the process of affecting your first rivet. They normally come with a spare one in the kit, but you will use both of the riveting bits up, fitting your first chain. Now, if you can get replacements to replace those for the next time you fit a chain, all well and good, but more often than not, you find you can't get them. And now, even with a D.I.D riveting tool, they don't last forever. You might get through 2 or 3 chains before you need to replace the bit, but at least with them, you can purchase replacement riveting tools. But again, the last time I looked, which is a few years ago now, they retailed at about £30, which is more than the cheaper kits cost. So what I've decided to do with this, you know, the amount of power that goes through this bike, and as I say, D.I.D recommend that this kit is suitable for up to 800 cc's, and you're certainly talking 70 or 80 brake horsepower territory there, probably more, depending on the make and model of bike. You know, a clip link is easily okay for this job. Now, I'll talk about that a little bit more while I'm fitting, because well, it just gets rid of unwanted silences while I'm fitting it. But let's measure the chain and see whether it, at 3,000 miles, it has come out of adjustment so far. Now, there may be some confusion. I know when I did the Interceptor chain check and adjustment a few years ago, a lot of the old Royal Enfield guys were very quick to attack me for not doing it properly. With the old classic 350 and 500, it was recommended that you actually check the chain with the bike on its centre stand, which is quite unusual actually. There's not many brands recommend that. In fact, they're the only one that I know of. Looking at the handbook for this bike, it doesn't mention the centre stand. It says just to get the bike as upright as possible on a level surface to take your measurements. So I'd recommend you get a plank of wood or something underneath your side stand just to stand the bike up. You can, if you want, if you've got a friend handy to hold the bike upright while you take the measurement, that would be ideal. I don't, so we've got it as upright as we can. Now, the best thing for measuring something like this is a steel rule. This is an 18-inch steel rule. I normally use a 6-inch, but I can't find it. So we'll just clean the chain off a little bit so I'm not getting too much crap on my hands. Your midpoint is round about here, so just be behind the foot tang on your centre stand. I think that's about your midpoint. Now, to check the slack, you need to just push it down gently to as far as it'll go, and then push it up to actually measure the amount of slack that you have. Now, remember to use the same point on the chain. It's very easy to sort of line the bottom of your chain up here with the marker on your ruler, and then when you push it up, you use the top to measure it against the ruler. And obviously you've added in the thickness, which will be about 1 centimetre there. You've added in the thickness of your chain to that measurement, which will give you the wrong measurement. So remember to use the same point on the chain to actually take that measurement so that you're getting an accurate measurement. As I say, I normally use a 6-inch ruler because it's easier to get in, but I think it was taken to the house for some DIY job and I've got no idea now where it is. So using that measurement there, comes down to about the 24 centimetre mark. So we wouldn't expect this to go beyond 27. The appropriate slack on this bike is 25 to 30 millimetres. So it should be somewhere between 25 and 30 millimetres. So we're at 24 there. Push it up. And we've actually got 28 millimetres. So it is due for adjustment, is this chain, but I'm not going to adjust it just yet because we're putting a new chain in, which is likely going to be a little bit shorter because it's a brand new chain, so there's no point undoing everything and slackening the back wheel off at this point. We'll see where we go when we've got the new chain on. So what I'm going to do is get the bike up onto its center stand, and then I'll move the camera around so you can see what I'm going to do next. You know, you're going to need either an angle grinder or a file, just to file 2 heads down on this riveted chain in order to break the chain. You'll also need a chain breaker. Now they're not expensive, you can pick them up for £7 or £8, but you must grind 2 of these heads off first in order to be able to push those pins through, otherwise you'll just break your chain breaker. So anyway, I'll get the bike moved, I'll get it up on its center stand so that we can turn the wheel freely and get everything to where we want it, and then we'll get grinded. I'll just better go and find my glasses as well so I can see what I'm doing. Now this appears to be an endless chain that they've fitted on here. As I say, we need to grind down 2 rivets on one of these side plates. You can do that, it's going to be really difficult with the camera in the way. You can do that with a file. It'll take some time because these are extremely hard metal. Preferably, well, you can do it that way if you don't have a grinder. Preferably, I prefer to use a grinder because it's just quicker. Now obviously you need to be very careful of your sprocket and anything else around there. All you're looking to do is grind these 2 rivets out. You don't want to be hitting anything else with the grinder. I mean, this grinder's about had it. I'm hoping there's enough meat on here to do the job. So I'll get on with that, and then we'll get on with the next bit. Right, as you can see, I've taken the heads of both of those rivets out now. So what we need to do, I think I brought my chain breaker out with me, I don't know what I've done with it, I'll get it, is just push those pins out. You've taken the head off now, so they should pull out reasonably easy. Let me just find the chain breaker. Right, I don't know whether you can see this. Right, so this is the chain breaker. It's actually very similar to a chain riveting tool. It's just these actual bits that are different, and as I say, unless you're buying a very high quality chain riveting tool, there's not an awful lot of point riveting the chain on a bike like this. So that pops into there. I'll leave a link for this. I got it from Amazon. I do actually have one somewhere, but I can't find it as usual. As you can see, we've got a little ball bearing on the end of that. That's free. If I knock that, that'll fall off onto the floor, so be careful with that. And I think it's just to stop the 2 pieces bounding up. So you wound that in. Now you've got a thread within a thread here. As you see, that part's threaded. And then you've got that part which actually pushes the pin out. So what you need to do is just withdraw your pin so it's not sticking out, and then center managed to fall out. You've got sort of a nipple on the back here which helps you center this up, and I'm doing this totally blind. Ordinarily, you know, you can get your head in from every angle to, actually it helps if I put it on the right one. So I've got that located on one of these at the back, so I can now screw that up. That should have centered it over the pin. So if we now wound this in, you will feel a bit of resistance. And I can feel that going. Or is it? Let's just have a look. It's one of those jobs you just have to do a little bit at a time and keep an eye on what's going on. No, it isn't. So it's always difficult doing this kind of job when the camera's in the way. Right, I think that's on. Let's try again. So screw that on. That should locate it in the right position. If you're pressing against the side plate with your pin, obviously nothing's going to happen. All you'll do is break your pin. Right, something went then. Yeah, and as you can see, I'll take this off to show you. It has actually moved the pin in slightly now. So we know that's on its way through. Yeah, that's going quite easily now. That's pushing the pin through. So I don't want to go too far with this because obviously these two pins are held together by the plate at the back. So they have to be sort of pushed out fairly evenly. So you have to do the same with the next one. Not convinced I'm like that. I mean, when you're doing this, it's going to be a lot easier because you don't have to worry about the camera. It's always just awkward filming these bits because you don't get the best view. Right, so that feels like it's going. There we go. And the chain's apart. So anyway, these are the O-rings. Now, in the kit from Hitchcock's, the D.I.D kit, you've got replacements for all of these. What we need to do first of all is get the new chain on. And some people make this quite difficult for themselves. What I'll do is I'll move the camera out so you can see what I'm doing. Right, so this is a 520 chain. Now in the, I thought I'd open that. We're using the split link kit. What I'm going to do is use the rivet kit to thread it on. The easiest way to get a chain on is just to use the new link that you've got, push that through the existing chain and connect it up to the new chain. Then you can just turn the wheel and it will wind it on and get everything to where you want it to be. Now I've got the sort of wax paper that this chain comes with just on the floor here, just to stop the chain from getting dirty. Now what I like to do, you have the D.I.D name stamped on the chain, which, yeah, you paid a lot of money for that. I like to have the D.I.D the right way up on the bottom run of the chain. Actually, it doesn't make any difference, it's just my preference. So I'm going to thread the new chain on there. That should hold in place now while you turn the wheel. Make sure everything engages properly. And the old chain is now pulling the new chain on into place, so you don't need to worry about taking the front sprocket cover off and removing the sprockets or anything like that. This is just the easiest way. I'm just pulling the chain from the other side So what you end up with is the old chain on the deck and the new chain ready to go on, like that. That's not going to hold there. Probably be better if I just move it round to there so it's holding it. So your old chain's in place. I don't think we'll need to adjust this. I think we'll be fine. Remember to have some workshop wipe handy while you're doing this, because it's a dirty job. Now the full titanium plated or coated chains, the middle links are also titanium coated. They're the higher quality ones. You've got absolutely no worrying about them ever rusting. These are a sort of a halfway house. What you don't need to worry about too much with these when it comes to lubing is lubing your side plates, because normally you have to blather a lot of lube on your side plates to stop them from rusting. This setup sort of takes away that problem, so you're not using as much chain lube, and you only have to put the chain lube on the rollers where it's needed. You're not, you know, putting loads of chain lube on there just to sort of stop it from rusting, which is where most of your chain lube goes, if I'm honest. So in the kit, now that was actually a rivet link that comes with this kit, but D.I.D also include a split link or clip link kit. We always call them split link kits as kids. You might have a different name for it. Now, these are controversial. At the end of the day, they use these kits for well over 100 years for connecting chains and all manner of machinery. I've got no particular preference, but the riveting kits, even if you've got the correct tools, they can be difficult for DIY application, because if you look at, that's the wrong one, what have we just done with it? If you look at the rivet pins here, as you see, they've got like a little hole in them, and your riveter goes into that and spreads it out, but it only spreads it out by fractions of a millimetre, maybe a couple of hundredths, 400ths of a millimetre, something like that. So you need an electronic vernier gauge or something like that to measure how much you've splayed them out, because if you don't splay them out enough, the chain may come apart. On the other hand, if you splay them out too far, you can make them too tight and you can crush your O-rings. So you've got to know what you're doing with these. I mean, I hear stories from people that you know, they don't use split links or clip links because they're dangerous, and they fitted them and they came off, or they have a friend that fitted them and they came off. But for every story like that I hear, I can counter it with a similar story from someone who's you know, had a riveted chain fitted by a dealership or whatever, and they've had exactly the same issue. So at the end of the day, D.I.D would not supply a clip chain with these kits if they didn't consider them to be safe, because, you know, D.I.D have a reputation to maintain. The advantage of these is when it comes to doing your next chain, there's no real messing about. You can just undo the clip, take it off, do what I've just done here. No special tools required. All you basically need is a pair of pliers, and you can fit the chain. I think the reason split link chains went out of fashion is in the old days, before O-ring sealed chains, it was customary or necessary to take your chain off about, I don't know, every 1,000 miles, dunk it in something like petrol or paraffin to get all the old lubricant off it, clean it up so that it was clean as a whistle. And then some of you will remember this, you used to be able to buy, like, it was a big biscuit tin full of a really hard sort of graphite wax. And what you would do is you would heat it up on a stove until it turned liquid. Then you would drop your chain into it, leave it to sort of, as we called it back in the day, cook for 5 minutes. Then you would carefully take the chain out, wipe off any excess and leave it to cool off. And then your chain was good for another 1,000 miles. O-ring chains, obviously you can't do that because it would damage the O-rings. So your riveted chains sort of came into fashion along with O-ring chains, because there was no need to keep taking your chain off anymore. There was no requirement for it, so it was easier and cheaper just to have either an endless chain or a riveted chain. You know, you didn't have to sort of supply clips and special fittings or anything like that. It did make it cheaper for the manufacturer of both of the chain and the motorcycle. But as I said, these kits come with both, so it's up to you which you fit. I have fitted riveted chains a couple of times on this channel in the past. I'll see if I can find the links for those and put them up. You know, I just thought it would be nice. You know, this bike is appropriate for this sort of fitting. I just thought it would be nice to do something a bit different this time, and you know, fit a split link. Actually, the old classic 500 comes as standard with a split link, so that's more powerful than this bike. So yeah, a split link's fine. Now, in your kit you get 4 O-rings. I think they actually call these X-rings, if I remember rightly. These are D.I.D's own sort of design, which is supposed to give a good seal whilst at the same time reducing friction, because one of the things that they do quote with these chains is that they do release a little bit more power from your engine. I don't know whether they really do, or whether if they do it's really that discernible, but this is all part of what makes these chains you know, last a bit longer than, shall we say, inferior chains. Now it comes with a special lube. Let me just tear that off so you can see what I'm doing. It comes with a special lube. You probably won't need all of this. What I like to do is, and again, ordinarily you can see what you're doing, just share it out between the 2 rollers. Alright, to press it in from the back, because you'll actually be putting your pin on from the back. Get as much of it in there as you can. Now, when you actually put your link in, it's going to push most of that out, but you need to make sure that you get as much of it in there as you can, so that you've got that lubricant sealed in there for life, because you don't want this to be the weakest link, although I suppose technically it is. So hopefully you can see there now, I've more or less filled those voids up with this stuff. More than enough in there. Most of that's going to be pushed out with the pin when I put it in. I'm hoping you can see that. I'll try and zoom in post if you can't, but you'll certainly see it when I put the link in. Now, O-rings are in place, and you simply push this on from the back, so you're now connecting your chain up. And again, I can't really see what I'm doing because I'm giving the camera the best view, but if I can just get those lined up, there we go, and we're on. And as you see, it's pushed that lube out now, but there's sufficient lube left in there to do the job. So I'm just gonna leave a little bit of lube around it, so that when your O-ring's pressed in, it will sort of press some of that lube back in from this side, so you've got a nice even sort of distribution of wax between those pins and the insides of the link. Now I'm just going to zoom in slightly so that I can show you, which will mean refocusing the camera, so just give me a moment. Right, I've just zoomed it in a bit so you can see, get a closer look at what I'm doing. Now there's plenty of grease actually left in that little sachet. I used to try and save it, but there's not a lot of point really. You usually end up losing it or it dries up. So I've smeared a bit of grease around there, so when this is pressed into place, it's holding as much grease as humanly possible in that void between the pins and the rollers. So put your O-rings back on. I'll take my glasses off so I can see what I'm doing. I don't know what I did with them. There. And you probably can't see it, but these pins they've got a groove. It works in the same way as a circlip really. What you're putting on here is a glorified circlip. Now make sure your fingers are clean when you're handling this grease, because you don't want to be picking up bits of grit. I'm just going to put a bit of grease on, and you just need to make sure, you may as well use up what you've got. You just need to make sure that you've got plenty of grease sealed in there when this O-ring's pressed into place. Yeah, I don't know whether it's strictly necessary, it's just the OCD in me that I like to make the best job of it I possibly can. There's probably some mechanic out there saying, oh no, you don't do that. But anyway, I've done it. So when I press the pin on here now, it's going to hold in the maximum amount of grease possible on that part. Now, this part of the kit, you've got a link. This should go on with the writing. It's got 520 VX3 on there. Should go with the writing on the outside, preferably oriented the right way. No. I can see we're just going to need to press those into place a little bit. They're sort of an interference fit, and we just want to make sure that, because at the moment you're not going to get that, you're not going to get this clip on as it stands at the moment. There's no way that's going to engage. I think maybe this is where some people do fail with these. They don't ensure that they've got everything lined up properly. Managed to find my chain press. Had to root through a few boxes. Right, we've got two parts to this chain press. This is the back. You've got a little slit in there which locates onto the rivets at the back. So make sure that it lines it up properly. And at the front, we've got the actual holes which will press against that. It will allow the pins to pass through the holes, but it'll press the plate evenly back. Now it's important not to overdo this. You can press them on too far. So a little bit at a time. First of all, let's just get it properly located. There we go. Right, so it's out of those holes. And we should have a handle that just allows me to brace it as I'm turning it, and then got a little Tommy bar that goes through here. And that should work. Just make sure you've got the holes lined up, which I haven't here. It's difficult keeping all this in camera shot. Yeah, I thought we'd go then. So a little bit at a time. Let's just see where we are with it. We don't want to go in too far. Yeah, Plenty of room for movement there, yeah. It's easier once you've got it started because this will just naturally centre over those holes, over those pins. And it's just a little bit at a time. Slam that off. You know, you don't want to over tighten it and push it in too far. Yeah, I've still got a little bit further to go. And as I say, this is probably where people go wrong when they're fitting these, because they don't compress it enough. It maybe clips on one side but not on the other, and then they found that although they don't realise it, they've not located it on properly. So the clip doesn't locate properly. See what we have. Right, so I can feel the clip there. I can feel the clip there, so we should be good to go with that now. Now the actual clip itself, which I've lost. Where is it? There it is. This needs to go on with the rounded bit here. Just pull that back in case you can't see it. This needs to go on with the rounded bit here, pointing in the direction of travel. So let's just see what we've got. You can get special pliers to do this, but I've always found a pair of round nose pliers work just as well. I have a feeling actually it might need pressing in a bit further, do we? Yeah, it does, because they're not locating. They're not locating there, so we just need to fasten it up a little bit further. It's just a matter of taking your time with these things. So, just take that a little bit further. You want to do it just enough so that the clip will engage easily onto the grooves. I'll put the grease at the moment so I can't see him. Right, so I think they might be there with it. Just press it in at the back. There we go, and we're on. Just check that to make sure it's not coming off. So you press the plate down evenly, just enough meat there for your clip to engage in the grooves. The rounded bit here is pointing in the direction of travel, with the open bit pointing the other way towards the front of the bike. That's when you're in this orientation. And yeah, I'm quite happy with that. It's clipped in properly. Just check it with your fingers, because if it isn't in that groove properly, it will pop off quite easy, and that's not going to. That's fine. So that's there until we need to take it off. Now you can reuse these clips. I would say probably no more than 3 times, because obviously the act of pressing your plate on and putting the clip back on will create wear and tear, and after 3 fittings I would say don't reuse it. But this is an O-ring sealed chain, so that there's no reason really, to take it off until you're ready to change the chain again. So let's just see what slack we've got here. I mean, this bike's, the chain adjuster hasn't been adjusted since I got this bike. As you saw, it was just coming out of adjustment, maybe 5 mil over. So it was ready for adjusting. That's after 3,000 miles. But with this being at the factory setting, and the chain being a brand new one made to the manufacturer's specifications for this bike, I'm going to guess that it won't need adjusting. So we shall see. Let's have a look. I'll move the camera around so you can see the measurements when I take them. Let's see where we are. So what I've got here is, goes down to 24 there, up to 27 there, or just under 27. So it's just slightly over 25 millimeters, which is the free play that it should have, or the bottom end of the free play that it should have. It shouldn't have any more than 30 millimeters. Right, so this is where I run into some more problems with the memory cards, a few corrupted files. All that was left to do with this was to lube the chain ready for use, which is pretty much self-explanatory. I'm sure I don't need to go through that with you. Now, I'm sorry this has been quite a long video, I know, but I wanted to sort of show it in real time. I think in reality, your average person can probably knock this off in half an hour. The problem that I always have with this kind of video, especially when I'm narrating over it rather than the old way that I used to do it, is that I have to get into some really awkward positions to try and give the camera the best angle of what I'm doing and not interrupt the available light, because, you know, if you're not careful you end up casting a shadow over what you're doing. It can be quite a sort of physical challenge sometimes, hence all the heavy breathing. Now, yeah, sure, I could have cut this video down considerably and probably done it in about 20 minutes by, you know, cutting most of the work out and just showing you the key facts. But the problem is, if you're coming to doing a job like this for the first time and you don't know all the intricacies of what are involved, you know, that's when people come unstuck and things go wrong, which leads to you know, a lot of the rumours that we all hear about, you know, these type of chain fastenings being unsafe, or riveted chains being unsafe. A lot of it is down to fitting or user error when fitting. And I do think me sort of taking you through it step by step, even though for some people it might be sort of too much detail, it will help people sort of, you know, get on with this job and be able to sort of divine exactly what they need to know to do a proper job of it. Now, the chain breaker that I bought specifically for this video, because I couldn't find my normal kit, actually I don't recommend it. It's not a very good design. But I did find my old Blue Spot kit. Now, I think these are still available. I'll find a link and I'll leave it down below in the video description. Now, this is a chain breaker, a chain press, and a chain riveter all in one. The chain riveter ain't brilliant, I'll be honest. You know, I wouldn't recommend it for riveting chains. I mean, you can do it with it. I've done it with it, but I wouldn't recommend it. But the other tools that come with that kit are immensely useful for this sort of job, so I will leave a link in the video description down below. I've got no idea what the cost is nowadays. Hopefully it will be reasonable. But the chain breaker and the chain press work really well, and it is a reasonably priced kit. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this rather long video, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. And you can help me out in other ways via my Patreon page or via the super thanks button down below. Either way, it's much appreciated. I will of course be back on Friday, so until then please ride safely and I'll see you soon.